Drew Thomas Hendricks here. I'm the host of the Legends Behind the Craft podcast. On this show, I talk with leaders in the wine and craft beverage industry. Before I introduce everyone, got to do a sponsor message. Today's episode, it's sponsored by Barrels Ahead. At Barrels Ahead, we help the wine and craft industry scale their business through authentic content. Go to barrelsahead.com today to learn more. So last week, we talked with Angela Zuba of Water's Edge Winery in Bistro. And she shared her amazing story about how the Water's Edge collaborative business model was key to founding her urban winery in Kalispell, Montana. If you haven't listened to that episode, you got to give it a listen. So today we have Bianca Harmon on the show joining us. She's our D2C strategist. How's it going, Bianca?
It's going great. Very much looking forward to this episode today here on Friday.
Yes, today we have Mythology Distillery on the show, and I'm super excited to talk with Scott Yeates and Chris Ritenour. Scott's the founder of Mythology Distillery based in Denver, and I think they're kind of relocated, or they've got another shop going up in Steamboat, Colorado. And then Chris Ritenour is their head distiller. How's it going, Scott and Chris?
It's going great. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, welcome to the show. So we've got a special show today where we're going to actually taste through some of your spirits, along with having a good conversation about how Mythology Distillery got started and where it's going.
Oh, that's great.
So starting off, Scott, tell me a little bit about yourself and how Mythology came to be.
Sure. Yeah, Mythology Distillery, this really started as a passion just for drinking whiskey, for drinking cocktails, hanging out with friends. Who knew that, I don't know, a decade or 2 decades of drinking whiskey would lead to a career in whiskey. Mm-hmm. I guess it just shows how much we liked it. But where it came about is we were on a ski trip and we were up in Alaska. We were drinking whiskey. It was some pretty gnarly days.
Where were you skiing in Alaska? Were you up by Gerd Mountain or?
No, so we were in Haines, Alaska.
Okay.
So we were backcountry skiing up there. And really cool, kind of funky town, small town, not a lot to do in the winter other than skiing and exploring. Mm-hmm. And we ended up at this craft distillery each night and drinking whiskey. And one thing led to the next. And it was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we created a distillery? Mm. And to give you a little bit of context, so my partners, we all grew up in Colorado, spent a lot of our time growing up camping, rafting, skiing, just like really focused on exploring and adventure. And as we got older, it seemed like whiskey started going hand in hand with that. Mm-hmm. That, you go on a rafting trip and you kind of all come together at night and someone is picking a cool cocktail to serve to the group. Or you're on a hut trip skiing and you're sitting around, you're taking pulls of whiskey. And then it kind of culminated with we travel, we're into sharing stories. Whiskey is something, we're all beer drinkers as well, but whiskey is something you can pour in a glass, you can kind of take a step back. And I don't know, it kind of takes a little bit of time to reflect. It's like a slower drinking beverage. So we see it as like a way to kind of build community, and it helped build our community. Cocktails go hand in hand with that as well. So that was the inspiration to start Mythology.
Oh, wow. What did you do before that? That's the question.
Yeah, so totally opposite. I developed affordable housing in the Denver and Boulder markets for about 15 years.
How many years?
About 15.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Oh. And Chris, how about you? How did you get your start into distilling?
Close to 15 years ago, I've always been kind of a nerd for science, history, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I just started becoming interested in old European, botanical spirits, just curious about them, wanted to know more. And just that kind of led me down this rabbit hole. Started researching it. Ended up making friends in the industry, spending time at distilleries, bugging people who knew a lot more than I did. And then I've been at this professionally for about 9 years now. Oh. So yeah, I would say there are worse ways to spend your day.
Oh, absolutely. And what did you do before this?
Nothing related to this at all, right? Like everyone else in this industry. I worked in corporate transportation. Yeah, I don't know, helping arrange stuff all around the world for different pharmaceuticals, that sort of thing. So yeah.
So this is way cooler is what you're saying.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Moral of the story.
Yeah.
Chris understates his passion for this. I'll put him on the spot. I mean, he's learned how to read French, just so he can
figure out the botanicals.
On distillation. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I, along with getting into all this, started collecting old distillation manuals. So
Oh,
I
wow. That's
just
cool.
spending a bunch of time on eBay France, buying, old antique stills and old antique, distillation manuals from the 19th century, early 20th century. Yeah, so
That's
and like
You
Scott
can
said,
read it. Can you speak it too?
oh, for sure, I cannot speak it.
Is the next mythology going to be a chartreuse?
We have talked about something in that vein, not an
Right.
exact copy, but we've kicked around similar ideas to that. Because yes, that's the sort of thing that I really spurred my passion for this whole industry.
I love the going down. We got to jump into the bourbon, but just a backstory on the botanicals. There's a Montana distiller that does like a Fernet. It's absolutely delicious. I forget the name of it, but I love the craft distillers are going into these more kind of digestives and aperitifs.
It's so fun.
There's a great one. I would love for somebody to recreate. I don't know. You can't really buy it anywhere except for in Greece. And it's from, I actually have a bottle I could show you because my mom just got it. And one of my best friends is Greek. And it's from the trees out there and it's made from the sap. And so you literally can't make it anywhere except for on that island in Greece where these trees are. And they've tried to plant the trees in other parts of Greece and they can't. And It is one of the best digestives I've ever had in my life. And it almost has that like pininess taste to it too. But if you're into that kind of thing, check it out. I mean, it's seriously so good.
It's one of my favorite things about distillation is how just hyper regional you can get with it. And that's a lot of times when it gets probably not widely interesting, but for a nerd, it's one thing that makes it a lot of fun and something that Scott and I have talked a lot about, wanting to do something in that vein, something that is very much of the location that we're in.
So, it's such an amazing area of the country in Colorado.
Yep. So especially once we're up in Steamboat, there'll be a lot of opportunity for stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, before we talk about that, let's jump into the first one of these tastings and we can kind of maybe go into this kind of the blending and your passion for it.
Yeah. So the first one will be the bourbon.
So this is the Mythology Best Friend Bourbon.
Yep. And then Scott, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll give kind of a background of why we decided to become a blending house. Cheers. Of course.
Cheers.
I'll go into a little background of why we became a blending house. I'll then kind of hand it off to Chris just to talk about kind of the blending process and this product. So we started this brand really as a reflection, right, of coming together and bringing people together to enjoy great whiskey. But when as I mentioned, I came from affordable housing. I wasn't, other than maybe a really good taster and a good sensory, I didn't have the technical expertise. And so when we sought out and we said, hey, what do we want to be? We love so many different whiskeys that are out there in the market. And one thing that started inspiring us was really what like barrel bourbon has done, or what High West, who's a little bit closer to us here in Colorado, what they've done. By taking and looking at whiskey as take different components, blend them together, and create something really interesting where the sum of all parts is better than each individual part. We really compare it a lot to cooking. I mean, from my side of just, let's find a really interesting ingredient. So I'll hand it over to Chris, but I'll talk maybe about this one first. So the Best Friend Bourbon, what we do on this one is we take a 5-year high rye MGP bourbon, which is exceptional, right? That bourbon is going to have those nice rye cinnamon spice to it.
Yeah, definitely pick that up on the nose.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful nose.
You're going to have the oakiness, some vanilla notes to it. I mean, to me, it's just an exceptional bourbon on its own. I mean, quite frankly, it's why there's so much MGB product out there in the market. But we said, okay, how do we make a twist on this and make it a little bit more interesting?
What does MGP stand for?
Midwest Grain Products.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the old Seagram's distillery. But they are just a large whiskey distillery. It's been around a long time. After Seagram's got sold off, that distillery changed hands a few times. But they were providing barrels of whiskey, to what Scott was alluding to a lot of distilleries and blenderies around the country.
Oh, okay.
So we start with that 5-year high rye. Mm-hmm. Then we blend in a 2 to 3 year bourbon. And, a 2 to 3 year bourbon on its own, to me, to you, maybe it might be a little bit hot. So it can be hard to really find the nuances and the character of it. But a 2 to 3 year bourbon really has exceptional like honey and cornbread notes.
Yeah.
And so by blending in that with more aged whiskey, we add the tannic structure of the older whiskeys to it so that all we're really capturing is that honey and cornbread in it. So at that point, we've made a blend that it's, cornbread, honey, evolves into this more cinnamon notes, some nice oak. Then we blend in a 15-year Kentucky bourbon. Oh. And the intent of that is on the finish that you get some of those richer tobacco notes. After you've had a couple sips, you like feel like you've drank whiskey. Whereas if you're drinking, maybe a 3 to 6 year whiskey, you might it kind of goes and falls flat. This gives it a little bit more character.
In a lot of small craft distilleries, when they're just starting, you're not getting that deep tobacco-y end because it just hasn't been around long enough.
Exactly. Yep. And then one thing that we do is, we really speak a lot about blending, the art of blending. Chris was just in Nashville teaching a seminar on the art of blending. We also put the blend on the side of the bottle.
Oh, nice.
So that our customers can see, and they can see, okay, this is where it's from. This is the mash bill, and this is the age of it. Really, so we can just speak to that, like, hey, we've taken different components together to create something interesting.
And where does the name come from?
Good question. So I don't know if you can see. So our bottles, on the front of each bottle, we have half human, half animal. So we have quite a bit of fun with this. This is Best Friend Bourbon. It's a dog and his loyal companion. And then we write a story on the back of the bottle that speaks to the connection between the animal and the human. So in this story, it's a corn farmer. His loyal farm dog kind of talks about, the farm dog taking shade by an oak tree, alluding to the oak barrels that this whiskey rests in. But then each day that they come together, they watch the sunset, they drink a glass of whiskey and just reflect on, they don't have to say anything. It's just that reflection on like a good life.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's Best Friend Bourbon. Yeah.
Now, was the Best Friend Bourbon the first product that you released?
No. So it's actually Hell Bear American Whiskey, which is going to be
okay. Oh, okay. Oh, so the Best Friend, it's everything you expect in a bourbon. It has a little bit more of a delicate quality to it that I love. Right on that mid palate. It's really, really, really nice.
The nose is incredible to me. I mean, it's just.
Now, I was just in Denver last weekend. It was just popping through right before the snowstorm, the last snowstorm. Yeah. For those that are listening, there was just a 100-car pileup right before this episode that we're recording. This will be out in a few weeks. But last weekend we were in Denver and should have stopped by, but I actually didn't know. It was very quick. We were driving down south to a conference in Alamosa. We're a big ranch. We were by the Great Sand Dunes. And it was a beautiful trip. But as we were driving by, we stopped in Salida, and there was another craft distillery down there, Woods High Mountain Distillery.
Yeah.
Now, just super impressed talking to them about all the craft movement in Colorado. Can you guys talk about that?
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned Woods. So Woods is run by P.T. Woods, and he's really been a leader for the Colorado craft scene. Another distillery in that area in Buena Vista, right next to Salida, is Deerhammer. So it's kind of interesting, that part of Colorado. Those are kind of two of some of the original distilleries, craft distilleries in Colorado. They've done a really good job. Colorado, I don't know, Chris, you might know. I think at this point we probably have somewhere around 35 craft distilleries.
Sounds about right. It seems like it's, increasing all the time in a positive way. It's awesome. It's a great state to be in the craft business, whether that's beer, spirits.
Is it the population that just kind of really appreciates that sort of artisan aspect of it?
Scott, maybe you can speak to it more, but I'll say yes. Even when I have worked at distilleries outside of the state, we would have Colorado circled as a desirable market to enter because yeah, the population here is so receptive and embracing of craft brands. It's hard to know, did the craft beer really take foot here because of that? Or is this a response, just people, because of the craft beer here in Colorado, they're open for craft distilleries as well? But the result's the same. I mean, it's just a really, really good market to be in the craft business.
Yeah, we had 10th Mountain on the show about last year about this time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, from Vail. They're
up
awesome.
In Vail, and you guys are now building a campus in Steamboat.
We are. So we started, when we started the distillery, we started in Denver. We built a tasting room and a distillery. It's an urban distillery. So we saw that as a huge opportunity to have, people know about us, have a more walkable environment to come have a cocktail and get to know the brand. That came a little bit at the expense of the distillery. So because of this, being urban, we couldn't take as much space. So we now have a second warehouse where we do our barrel aging, proofing, blending, all that operation. And then we also have to rent several other warehouses for additional rack house and storage. So yeah, not the most efficient. And it's been a little bit tough. I'm also based in Steamboat Springs, which is just about 2.5 hours northwest of Denver, kind of the northwest part of the state. Resort community, but population of, it's probably expanded the past couple of years, but population around 13,000. So we have a really solid community here. And it came time to say, hey, we really need to consolidate like our production operations and everything. We were looking, and then this former brewery in Steamboat called Butcher Knife Brewery, he wanted to sell, and we were an interested buyer. So we purchased it last year. We're really excited. We're under construction right now. So by next summer, we'll have a large distillery and cocktail bar, an Asian dumpling restaurant.
So
oh man, you're speaking my language.
We're so excited. Living here, we have great food, but Asian food is something we do kind of lack in Steamboat. So we're hoping that the soup dumplings will be a pretty good addition.
Cool.
And then we're building a big rack house, which is so much fun building a rack house from the ground up because we get to play around with the environment. And
what sort of things are you implementing there?
Yeah, so we have an earthen floor. So that means a natural floor, pretty typical in like the Highlands in Scotland. Promote natural humidity through that. We're a really dry climate. So we think that's a great way to promote the natural humidity in the environment. We also are going to play around with sonic waves. We're all big music lovers. I saw this initially at Copper and Kings in Louisville, Kentucky, a brandy distillery. And you go on a tour and you just hear this, like, I don't know, just like when I was there, Alabama Shakes was playing.
Okay, so you're gonna nurture the whiskey through the
this like throaty.
So it's not like whale sounds. You're gonna do actual music.
Yeah, so actual music. Yeah, but we'll play really cool sets, and we'll just play music to the barrels. And if you think about it, in the winter, as it gets cold in an environment like Steamboat, those barrels are going to contract. That whiskey is going to sit there, and it's going to sit there pretty idle. Having a sound system with a lot of bass components to it is going to allow that whiskey to still kind of activate inside the barrel.
You guys are going to need to get, there's a little tiny movie theater here where I live, and they have this bench out front, and it's just a 2-person bench, and it has copper on each arm handle, and you sit down on it and you hold hands and it starts playing music, and it's you let go of your hands and it stops, and it's like the copper running through, and you can move it depending on like your weight and your pressure, and you need to have like some of those seats.
That's awesome.
It was a STEM project that like the high school students did, and it is the coolest thing. You just like sit down on this bench and it tells you like, it doesn't do anything. And then the second you hold hands, it starts, and you can rub your fingers on the copper and it sounds like a piano playing different keys.
Where's that at?
Here in St. Helena.
Oh, I gotta
right outside our movie theater.
That's crazy. So
if you're into like the whole music and the copper and all of that, that would be kind of cool to just have planted somewhere like in your tasting room. And
that's amazing. I just wrote it down. So you said can you name the town again?
It's St. Helena. I can send you. I'll send you. I'll take a picture of it
in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll take a picture of it. It's outside the Cameo movie theater. I'll take a picture of it and send it to you through an email.
That'd be a great one for that. So the vibrations are a lot like kind of the ocean where they send the whiskey around the world and have it rock around for a year.
That's right, like Jefferson's. And
I think you guys got to do an A/B test and like get two different sound environments. Same whiskey, like do Slayer in one and Alabama Shakes in the other.
Exactly. Yeah, we recently formed a partnership with the Caro Symphony. So we're very excited once we were open to have them contribute to this. Maybe hold some kind of small quartet or something.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that.
And we also have, I should add, we have this large outdoor whiskey garden. So similar to what you've seen across the country with beer gardens. With whiskey, big fire pit, outdoor bar. We have slides that go down this kind of mountain hillside.
Wow.
So it should be
This is like an all-in-one stop.
Yeah, an adult playground.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
I love seeing the blending of the hospitality. That's fantastic.
Man, Colorado, though, is the place to do it. I think the people you were talking about, like the craft area out there, I don't know. There's just something about the people in Colorado. They're super easygoing and they're like up for anything new and adventurous. And I love it.
Yeah, I think it'll be really cool. I went to college at Colorado State University, which is where New Belgium, Odell's, Fort Collins, I mean, so many great breweries started there. And New Belgium was pretty large when I was there, but they were, Odell's was pretty small. And they've
Odell's, we see those everywhere now.
So, I mean, now, we kind of just influenced by those awesome brands and just what they've been able to grow into. And they give back to the community, and they're all about just like, their employees and creating a great team. And that's something we strive for.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about growing the brand, but Chris, you want to talk to us about the next one, Hellbear?
Yeah.
First one.
Or the first
the original.
One.
Yeah. So I don't know. I always say, I think I drink more of the bourbon. I love Best Friend, but Hellbear just has a special place in my heart for the complexity. It's the one I go to when I want to, spend some time and think on a glass. So, it's a blend of 3 different whiskeys again. In this case, it's primarily a 3-year-old rye whiskey. And then there's a 4-year-old high rye bourbon and a 5-year-old wheated bourbon here as well.
It's like a floral nuance or a piney nuance on the front.
Absolutely. And so that like floral kind of perfumey note on the nose, it's one of the things that I just really, really love about it. That and the rye spice, you're definitely getting from that 3-year-old rye. That 4-year-old bourbon, you're going to get a lot more of those like caramely, just like classic, like round, sweet bourbon notes that really just kind of gives it some weight. And then that wheated bourbon comes in. There's these really kind of delicate fruity notes that it contributes, but it also this tannic structure to it that just pulls it all together. So
I get some nuttiness on it when I taste it.
Absolutely. It's just, to me, there's, like I said, a complexity to it. And I use this as an example a lot of times when I'm talking to people about just how exciting blending can be. It's, clearly at this point, it's not a rye, it's not a bourbon, but we're pulling in select portions of each of those to bring together this thing that's, different than any of those components individually.
Sure. Now, is this something that's distilled? Are you distilling this, or is this from?
Yeah, same thing. So Mythology, our approach has always been, the focus would be primarily as a gin distillery and a whiskey factory. So we're constantly looking for, like Scott said, we approach it in a culinary way. So we look at it as looking for new ingredients. So we're always on the hunt for interesting barrels that may come our way, different components, ingredients that we can use to build something new and exciting.
And so, I guess I should have asked, when was your first release? When were you founded?
2018.
2018. So we're 4 years in. And that's always the challenge. If you start with whiskey, how do you launch a product day one?
Right.
You do a white whiskey, you got to kind of have it. So blending actually gives you the avenue to like use the right ingredients to create your vision from the outset.
It does. And I mean, from a business model, maybe, I don't know, you could probably make an argument either way, but it's a little bit more capital intensive up front, I think, because you have to invest in the barrel to make a consistent product. I don't know, over time, I guess you could probably make an argument either way. But yeah, we really made that like very like direct approach. We're a whiskey blendery gin distillery.
I see.
Because there are a lot of distilleries and great distilleries out there that start with maybe a source product and then they move into their own product. We more kind of see it as we want to just continue with blending because we think it's interesting.
Yeah.
But also it allows you to start, I mean, at some point it's a business, right? And you want to make money. And when you're doing just your own, I've talked to a lot of these spirits guys and they've been waiting like 15 years and they're just now getting their first products out. And it's like, wow. So you've just been sitting there. Like, obviously they haven't just been sitting there, you know, but like nothing, they can't do anything because they're waiting.
Yeah. It's tough. It's really tough. All you have to do is just keep making whiskey. You know, another thing we do, and we don't have a sample of this today, but I'll kind of mention it because it's something that we do with blending. We do a fair amount of wine finished.
I was actually going to ask you about that one, the Syrah, because I was like, is that wine? I want to know. We aren't tasting that one, but I want to know about it.
Okay, the next one, we'll taste the wine finished one.
Yeah.
But talk to us about that.
We're really fortunate to have a collaborative partner, Dominio 4. It's a small boutique winery in the Willamette in Oregon. And we work directly with the winemaker, Patrick, and his team. And this started about 4 years ago that, you know, we said, hey, you know, it'd be really fun. We've seen so many port finished whiskeys. It'd be fun to play around with something a little bit more creative than that, maybe. And so he suggested Syrah for the Helder. And the reason, you know, this is what's cool to talk to the winemaker. He's like, look, our Syrah, it's like, it's big fruit. It's big blackberry, some chocolate notes, a little bit of mint. We then, you know, that really counterbalances the American whiskey, which is more rye forward, more spice. So a couple of things we do unique. So, you know, they dump the barrels on a Monday. Those barrels are shipped to us right away. They have no time to oxidize.
Oh, yeah, they're still wet and juicy.
Yeah, I mean, you open the barrel and you kind of want to become a winemaker for a day.
For a split second.
Right. They're just, I mean, it's so good. It's like, oh my word. We fill those up with rye. Then, so that's a little bit unique because being able to work directly with the winemaker, pick the barrels, have that great relationship. What's also unique is that we let the whiskey rest in that barrel for about 10 months. That lets that whiskey really integrate in. You know, we're not picking up really any age from the wood. We're picking up just those notes of that wine. Having that time, because a lot of maybe wine finished whiskey that you see on the market, maybe it's been in the wine barrel for two to 6 weeks. Or
the barrel's been dry for a long time.
Or it's been dry, right? Yeah.
I mean, really reminiscent. Like, I know there's Jameson has a Chateau Montelena finished. It's barely tastes the wine finished, but yours has like almost a deep wine color to it.
It does. Yeah. It picks up that like huge purple color. I mean, it's
so
cool. A fan favorite. I love it. Every time I pick up a bottle, it doesn't last very long.
And just on the production side, I'll say too, like these finishes, it's a lot of fun because again, it goes back to that just building flavors. And so, yeah, as Scott said, those barrels will work with the winemaker. The day they're dumped, they get picked up, come here. The day they get here, we have the whiskey blended, ready to go. We'll dump out any wine remnants that are in there, right? Because that's the other thing. It's all this balance. You don't want to just be like hit over the head with that finish. So we'll fill that up. And my favorite thing, it's some of the coolest stuff in this industry are unfortunately the aspects that most people will never get to experience. It's so fun and interesting seeing the way the flavors develop in those barrels. So I always say it's like early on, the flavors are very disparate, right? You can taste the whiskey and you can taste the wine, but they're not integrated at all. And it really takes some time for those flavors to integrate and really marry. But then like on the flip side of that, you can let it go too long and really, just become so heavy-handed with that finish that you've muted all the interesting characters out of the whiskey and just kind of like deadened everything. So
there is a crucial time period.
Absolutely. And you can see it coming, right? So it becomes like we're checking it like every, first is like check it 3 months in, then 5 months in, then 6 months. And then by the end, checking it like every other day or every day, because you can see it. It's getting closer, closer, closer. And that's, like I said, the real fun part is just going like, okay, now let's pull it out.
Time to pull.
Yeah.
And so how many barrels are you guys getting from them approximately?
I mean, it changes more and more every year.
Yeah. I mean, the first year, it was just a small project. It was just a couple barrels. And now we've increased it quite a bit because we'll kind of take as many barrels as they'll give us because we would like it to be a product that we can have more readily available. It's just so good. Dominio Ford did send us some Tempranillo barrels.
Oh, cool.
Oh my word. I mean, like Chris and I had no idea what it would do. To me, it just gives this it coats my mouth with like a fig kind of note and then finishes with whiskey. I absolutely love it.
I think that's a great combination, like the wine finished whiskeys. I have a lot of experience drinking beer finished or some beer collabs. One of my favorite craft distilleries down by us is Malahat. And they've done some great collaborations with some local craft brews where they'll get an IPA and they'll finish it off, or even a coffee. They have a coffee finished whiskey that has been good, but I really want to see more of these wine ones.
Well, the way you guys are doing it is so impressive. I mean, because a lot of the times these living in Napa Valley, these guys are selling their barrels to distilleries, and some of them are like over a year old, and then they're buying them. And then
we did that once and it didn't go well. We didn't fill the barrels. Those barrels just sit. We have these 2 like massive Grenache barrels. I don't know, we might make a hot tub out of it or something. I mean, we received them and they were just completely dry. I mean, it wasn't going to add anything. And we just were like, no. We're not
it turned, acetic acid had like started in there. And so that is something that's really hard. So we do other finishes as well. And throughout my career, I've done other ones, whether they're other spirits like rum or, like fortified wines, like, or
a lot of portwood,
cherries, stuff like that, which I love all those too, but they're just much more stable.
In all your career, what's a finish like? I'm never going to try that again.
Oh, actually, I know why Scott's laughing now. Sorry.
We have.
He's about to say yes.
Sometimes we experiment, and we decided to take it was a whiskey barrel that someone had finished a gin in.
Oh.
And then, so it was barrel aged gin, and then we decided to put whiskey in it. And I don't know, maybe it's like 3 years old or something. I don't know what it is at this point, but we laugh about it a lot. I tend to say this is probably like the dumbest decision we made, but you have to make those decisions. It's not a dumb decision. It just was like,
you got to experiment.
You don't know until you try, right?
And here's not bad.
Yeah. Here's the good news is like with most stuff, you just have to think on your feet and get creative with it. Right. So it had been in that gin barrel for, let's say it's 6 months and it wasn't great. And it's like, well, let's just let it ride. Because, sometimes you'll see things like pull up out of it and you're like, and got into about a year and it's like, it's not doing anything good. So pulled it out and put it in a old bourbon barrel to just kind of give it a chance to
find itself again.
Yeah. Like reset. And what's really cool now after being in there a year, it's like come around. It's like, it's hard to describe. It's so perfumey.
Probably from the gin.
Yeah, absolutely from the gin. But so it's, mellowed out, tamed down in a much more interesting way, but we haven't found its final form. That's all. That's all I can say is I feel like there's a light at the end of this tunnel.
There's a journey.
Yeah. It's like going, okay, it went from being like, well, this is hopeless to hey, I think we got something we can work with here. So now it'll just be figuring out the next barrel to throw it in that can complement that, round it out. And yeah, we won't release anything
Eventually
that's
it'll be your
good.
$400 bottle because it's been in so many barrels.
I know. We were joking around that like more than likely we'll probably make it into some really cool like bottled cocktail. And we were joking around that after like 4 or 5 years, it probably becomes this like exceptional bottled cocktail.
Yeah.
That we
never be able to do again.
I want to move into gin while we still have some time here. And perfect segue is until last week, I'd never really heard of an aged gin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was in Salida.
Yeah, we haven't released any yet, but we have some fun ones here.
So
aging away.
Do you guys do any of the gin? I mean, this might be crazy, but do you do any of the gin in wine barrels?
Actually, yeah, we have gin in a Chardonnay barrel.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
And do you get it just like you get the Syrah?
Not that one. No, we should reach out to Domínio for that. We're still debating if gin in a Chardonnay barrel is a good idea.
Okay.
We think it's going to be a good idea. We think that we think the Chardonnay, the butteriness of it, can really complement a gin, but we're not sure what to do with the end product. It's been sitting in there for maybe about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I think that one has a little bit more time too.
Wow, this smells incredible.
I'll say before we get into this, just to finish on that, the one I'm most excited about, we have some of our gin in a Spanish orange wine barrel.
Ooh.
Forgot about that. That I am really excited about.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm excited about that, and I haven't even tried it.
So I forgot, right when we were getting it, I'd done research on it, but they do a Solera method, and they put actual orange peels into the barrels, or into the wine master, and the barrel smelled amazing. Just it's very marmalade-y and syrupy, and it's tasting pretty cool. But yeah, it's gonna have to bake away for a while, but I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, that's really exciting. When do you anticipate maybe that coming out? Have you released an aged gin?
No.
Not yet. So they're all behind you.
Yeah, I mean, literally, these 2 barrels are gin, actually. So, yeah.
Tell us about this gin. I'm a gin lover.
Yeah.
It smells incredible.
So same too, like I said, my whole entrance into this weird world was through botanical spirits and, gin being one of those. So I know I'm biased here, but I'm a really, really big fan of the gin that we do. One of the things you'll notice about it that I think makes it stand apart from a lot of other gins, we use sage in it.
Yeah, you can taste it.
Yeah, but that we also have grapefruit peel, so that sage and grapefruit peel, I think, pair in such an interesting way. We use an Italian juniper, which has this really neat kind of fruity note to it. And there's some star anise in there, which I feel really comes through on the back end.
Well, it's interesting because my fiance and I were at lunch last week, and we always go to this restaurant. I get a dirty martini gin, and we were talking about gins and how, all the different gins out there. And he's like, it's not very often these days you can find a good gin that you want to sip on. He's like, but when you find them, they're so good and you can just sit there and sip on them. But it is, a lot of these gins are made to go with vermouth or, with a martini or some crazy cocktail that they're making now. They're not known to people as a sipping liquor. And they can be if they're done well.
Yeah.
That's what's so exciting about the craft distillery side of gin. That you can make, because you're absolutely right, Bianca, everything's made as a dry gin.
Yeah.
Whereas, in craft distilling, it's well, let's make a more full-bodied gin. Let's make something that, someone wants to have in just a martini or they just want to have on the rocks. I would just drink this. This is great. This is what we've been looking for.
Yeah.
And you'll notice there's a lot of sweetness and body to it.
Yeah.
It's very round.
It's definitely not an Old Tom gin, but it has this almost Old Tom quality to it. But what's neat is Old Tom gin generally has sugar added back into it to contribute that. This is all just through the distillation technique.
Wow.
So all that sweetness, that mouthfeel, that richness is just the amount of oils that are being carried over in the distillation to contribute to that. So
it just kind of sits on your mouth too. And like, you just keep tasting different things as it's sitting there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I can see why we tasted this last. It is very, very complex.
It's complex and it kind of takes over. It's my martinis have gone from 2-ounce martinis to 3-ounce martinis.
Now, how does this needle pig compare to the foragers that you have?
So, yeah, totally different. This is our standard year-round, just flagship gin. Foragers is a collaboration that we do with the Denver Botanic Gardens.
Oh,
cool.
Okay.
Which is something I think we're all super excited about. I know, obviously, selfishly, I am, because it's such a fun project. Funny enough, earlier today, I was actually playing around working on next year's recipe. So, yeah, it's just a fun collaboration. Scott went to school with one of the main horticulturalists there. And yeah, it's just like for this latest batch, it was something that where Scott Blake from the Botanic Gardens and I could sit down and work on formulating this recipe together, which again, just selfishly is a lot of fun to like work as a group on this project and come up with something that, I don't know, is both tastes good and is fun to do.
So is gin truly, you think, your passion because of the, all of the herbs? And
yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, this isn't a cop-out. I don't just have like one. I find there are particular aspects. So for the whiskey, it's the blending. It's that. I think it all comes back to like building flavors, because gin's the same way. The most fun part about gin is you're sitting here with these different ingredients and layering them together, right? And trying to get them to act in harmonious ways. One just like nerdy side note about all this that I think about constantly with blending and with gin, one of these old distillation books, they use the analogy of musical notes and intervals when it comes to flavor building, like a major third or a minor third, major fifth, and with like sweet, sour, bitter, savory, and trying to combine these different intervals in ways that make a harmonious chord as opposed to something that's inharmonious, right? So yeah, I don't know, like I said, it's not a cop-out, but for me, I see it's that aspect of it, and I see it in the blending and I see it in the like botanical selection.
Cool.
That's fantastic. On the needle pig, how many different iterations did you have to go through to find your final like house style?
Oh, quite a few. I would say, I don't know. I think we probably went through, we knew Italian juniper right off the bat. Italian juniper is really interesting. I mean, it has this oily component to it. I eat the berries. I like them. Like, I think they're good as a snack.
Where do you source that? Is that just through a company? I mean, are they come in from Italy?
Yeah. So a company called San Francisco Herb.
Oh. Different
botanicals, we go through different sources. It's like anything. I don't feel like there's any one place you go to for everything.
It's where the best.
Yeah. But San Francisco Herb is close to that, right? They're one of those like big botanical brokers who can get all sorts of stuff. But yeah, this Italian juniper, like,
it feels like it's almost more of a berry flavor than kind of that really like junipery taste.
Wow. It gives us this like sweetness that it's really nice. Sage, like we wanted to pick a botanical that really like spoke to the Rocky Mountain region a little bit. And although it's not mountain sage, we think just sage in general does kind of speak to that like just environment maybe.
So that kind of bright sweetness on the nose. It's not sweet like sweet, but it's got a pleasant smell. That's that Italian juniper and maybe the grapefruit. Yeah.
I mean, it's a real combination of them, but leading that charge is that Italian juniper. And then to me, the sage is the other component that really like shines through and stands out.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. I've learned so much, and we got to have you guys back on to taste some of these gins when they come out. But as we wrap it down, is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to share with the audience?
I mean, do you want to talk about the rye that's coming out?
Oh, yeah, sure. Let's do that. I'll intro it a little bit. So sometimes when you're finding component whiskeys, you come across something that's almost too good to create in a blend with other whiskeys. And an instance of that is we picked up a pretty significant number of 8-year 95% rye barrels. It was 95% rye, 5% barley. And they just were exceptional. And rye is one of those whiskeys that a lot of times you find rye on the market between 3 and 5 years. It just has a component to it that it's exceptional. I love rye, but you can release a 5-year rye and it's really pretty exceptional. So a lot of times you don't find older ryes on the market. So we had this 8-year rye and we thought it was so great. We kind of decided we're only 2 years away from 10 years. Let's just see how this progresses. And these barrels turn 10 in mid-October.
Wow.
And we've obviously been monitoring them pretty much monthly for the past 2 years. And these are just, they stand out on their own. And so we just are releasing that this November. It's called Thunderhoof Rye. Ooh. That stands for a female bull rider, which we're really excited to introduce a female into our mythology.
Your manly mythology group.
We need a little bit more softness to it. So, and she is a bull rider, so she's kind of a badass. So it's pretty cool. We're releasing these, and the way that we're releasing them is we have released several single barrels. And, a single barrel is just a barrel within that lot of barrels that just stands out and it's just exceptional on its own. And so there's several of those single barrels going out. Those will go out at cask strength. Coming in, to us, it's really exciting. They're coming in at like 126 to 140 proof. With the whiskey world, this is like our eyes brighten up. We get so excited. And then the remaining barrels, Chris is blending into 8 separate batches. Chris, maybe I'll let you talk about those.
Yeah. Like Scott was saying, a very small number of these barrels were just kind of so exceptional on their own. We wanted to hold those aside. Other ones are all very, very good, but just goes back to, I think, the importance of blending. Most barrels aren't single barrels. It doesn't mean they're not good, but they are served much better by being combined with other barrels to really coax out more interesting flavors. So that's what we're doing. We're going to, like Scott said, have 8 releases of these. I'm not quite sure our time frame on when we'll be doing it, but somewhere over the next year or so, small batch. And we're just really, really excited about it. We're actually just gearing up to send out our first release to our distributor the next week. So yeah, it's coming up, but I'm really excited to hear what people think about it. But in-house, we're really excited.
Got to keep an eye out for that. Well, Scott and Chris, where can people find out more about Mythology?
Yeah, so our website, we try to put as much information out there.
It's a great looking site, by the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So our website, our social, we're active on social. If anyone has a question, they can also reach out to us. Email info@mythologydistillery.com. We have our tasting room in Colorado. Obviously, we're super excited about this campus that we're building at Steamboat. So we try to be accessible. Right now, we're distributed in Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Tennessee, California.
Oh, I'll have to keep an eye out for it.
And then people can also purchase our products online from our website.
Oh, great. Ever thought about doing like a whiskey club or a subscription-based gin?
We have, and we'd love to do it. It's a matter of finding out the right structure.
Just getting it done.
Yeah, just getting it done. One of many things, but we'd absolutely love to do that, a whiskey club.
Yeah.
Or gin club.
I think a gin club. Both.
I know, both. It'd be great.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We've got to have you back when the aged gin's out there.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great to meet you both.
Thanks for listening to the Legends Behind the Craft podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.